Hello, everybody. Welcome to another Style Wednesday with the Queen of Style. And we are here at 7 p.m. Hello, everybody. Welcome to another Style Wednesday with the Queen of Style. And we are here with the one and only we have in studio tonight. And I'm waiting. So I'm going to thank my sponsors first. I want to thank Celebration Wedding and Events, Fashion Avenue News Caribbean, Look for skincare and cosmetics, and J&D, and not forgetting Wen Shacks out there. So, guys, another amazing Wednesday. We have the lady who has started an amazing podcast. She has been doing some amazing communication in getting everybody out there and their views heard in what they're great at. And we just had to bring her on Style Talk and let her tell us the fantastic works that she's been doing to get everybody voice heard on what they're great at and how can they become phenomenal. Tonight we have the one and only, someone I looked up to, Coreentje Phipps Benjamin is in the studio with us. Welcome.
Good evening, Wendy. How are you?
I am good. I am good. I am good.
And good evening to all who have joined us this evening to have this, hopefully, light exchange.
Yes, definitely.
Right. Yes.
Tell us who you are professionally and personally.
Professionally, I have worked in communications for some time at various levels. But before I talk about professional Coreentje, personal Coreentje, hail from Keon, tiny island of Green Valley, tiny village of Green Valley on the island of St. Kitts and Nevis, obviously. Rich childhood in the sense that I think the opportunity to, growing up in Keon and having the opportunity to be educated in Bastia, as you know, you get to see the mix of a blend of people who later in your life you realize, the value of people and relationships, value of family, the value of community service, because I think that's part and parcel of what has helped make Coreentje. Communications only came later on in my life because you realize, well, it seems like I could write a little bit and maybe have a conversation. And it's also a tool to really help share information, hence the concept of the podcast. I currently, work with a private renewable energy company, had the opportunity to serve, I call it service, because serving my country at the Permanent Mission of St. Kitts and Nevis, and worked in several communications roles in private sector here in the US. So, the more you deal with people, the more you realize you have to appreciate people and their differences and styles of communicating. Some people are good at writing, some people are good at just saying it. But either way, the idea is to get a message out where there's that need for that. Here, look cute, Wendy. So personally and professionally, I always go back to who I am and where I hope to be. Has a lot, and I think everything to do with people. From family life to good connections. I just don't. I remind people all the time that what I am now is really not Coreentje onto herself. People really are the driving force behind where I am and where I hope to go. So that's that.
Amazing. And I want to take it back because let's take it back to high school when Coreentje was that athletic. I think you were in every sport. You were involved in everything. And I just remember you being a part of everything. I remember you were my prefect because I And when we say, oh, Coreentje coming to be up, yes, 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 because we know we're going to have a good time. You're going to let us do our schoolwork, but at the
Right.
same time, it's going to
All
be
about fun.
outdoor activity. We're going to go outside and we're going to do something after we finish doing
Right.
what we have to do. So tell me about sports, because I know you are very active.
Right. I
And
think
how has that played a part in your life now? And I know you're still active.
right.
So how did that come about, and what kept you doing the
It's
things you love to do on the outside?
interesting that you asked. That's a good question, Wendy. Again, upbringing. You know, you're idle if you ain't about something. If you're not involved in some activity, you know, the older heads tell you you're idle. And so the siblings were very active. My brothers were basketballers. My eldest brother, he ran track, played cricket, I think he played soccer. But either way, the younger boys or the younger siblings played basketball. And so you are the middle child of the last three. There are five of us. My mom has five kids, and so the older ones help to raise us. But in between being between two boys, you could. I wouldn't say you think you're bad too, but you think you could handle your own too. So I play basketball. You pitch a little marble. Eventually I ended up playing netball. Got an opportunity, and again, it's an opportunity I think that helped to build personality and character. And every time I talk about getting a chance to play nationally for St. Kitts and Nevis on the netball team, you think about the relationships first of all, lifelong, but you also think about the people who mentored you. Some really, really good women. And so, and I promise to be careful about calling names because, for fear of leaving out names. But I think many of the women, people who hear me talk tonight know who they are. Really instrumental in shaping character. So yes, you play sports and you're playing it and you're having all this fun, but you don't even realize until later in life all that they were teaching us was really trying to build us, character building. I remember one year netball tournament I think it was under 23, and the theme that year was no excuses. Thelma Philip Brown, Marcella Liebert, other I think one of the Mortons. Again, that's one of the reasons why they want to call names, but just drive you to focus on discipline. When you get the opportunity to encounter such drilling, so to speak, and such discipline, you either conform or you reject it. And most times, because you want to play the sport, no excuses became something I'll never forget. You could always have an excuse, Wendy, but the objective of any particular undertaking is to finish it. When you come to netball practice late and you're trying to come up with a reason, but the theme is no excuses. So you just make sure it ain't happen again, right? Yeah. So those experiences pretty much shape the Coreentje I am. And again, part of it came from upbringing. Your family playing sports and you want to join the playing sports too, so you play, but you realize, and I think I heard that saying somewhere, some of the best employees are actually athletes.
And that's true because, playing netball and playing all these sports, you had to be there at a certain time or else you'll be on the bench. So
That's true.
Like, you want to be there, you go somewhere, you have to be there like 15 minutes prior because it's still instilled in me as well to make sure I'm there before the actual time frame to get.
I see that, Wendy, you're always on time for Style Wednesday. So therein lies some discipline, right?
Yes, because you want to make sure you're on time because you don't want to you don't want to be furious, you don't want to be off balance, you just want to make sure that you have your head in the game. And I realized recently you participated in track and field event in Connecticut. So let's talk about that because I know you were a track star. You ran. You were.
Again, I promise not to call names, but it looks like I'm calling some names. It looks like I will have to call some names. The story behind that is, with life, you have so many challenges and we get time from to go run race. But I had a really dear friend of mine who insisted, Jackie Richards.
Okay.
She insisted, I'm running the race in Florida, in Tallahassee. It's this race for this certain age group. And but this particular organization has various categories that one can participate. So various age groups, right? And so she ran her race, qualified. She's going to be in that race next year. And I'm like, I am not prepared. I really am not ready to run. I couldn't even run out the blocks. I ain't trained to run out the blocks. You see how elementary my run was? Because I really wanted to participate because it's part of community building. You do a couple of things, by the way, apart from you personally. You know, little people watching you. You know, I raise a little girl and I'm raising a son. So essentially they see you and you do have to think about, you know, your mentorship in their lives. And so you don't preach or show in your actions that you're necessarily superwoman, but you at least encourage them, you inspire them to whatever heights of greatness they can attain. But it comes from hard work, right? And so I just went to run the race and you know, ended up in a category with these young girls because they had so many heats to run. So they put me and these two 31 or 33-year-old on the 50 meter run. I don't know how I managed to run right behind the 33-year-old girl, 7.7. She ran, I ran a 7.8. You know, so the all what's that? I guess memory muscle, right, Wendy?
Listen, it just came back into play. It's every year. And you woke something up in you. The competitive spirit was woken up. And the winning spirit was woken up. And
all
the ability to make it happen was woken up.
Right. And these are just curricular activities, right? And so what it does is it just keeps you healthy, I guess, and motivated to be a good example to others.
I think, like, you know, too, like, we've been so active in our earlier lives that I think that our body is sometimes asking for that. And
possibly. But you know what we talked about back in the day? We got, you know, we have to go back and talk about Sandra Grant and Marva Sadio. Of course, there were others, but I recall that maybe I used to, you remember me as being fast for what's that? 8th grade, when Sandra came to convent school. Sandra shut it down. I think Sandra became the class 2 champion. I don't think I ever won a race after Sandra came. And then by the time you look, Jackie went, became first class champion, something like that. Either way, in between that range of, you know, group of girls, there might have been others if my memory fails me. Gosh, somebody could correct me, but I remember that rivalry in back in the days.
But Coreentje, you never gave up, and that was the ultimate push and drive. You know, there was netball, there was volleyball, there was track and field, there was so much other curriculum that you were involved in, and you always pushed everybody. So as somebody who was always the forefront to say, come on, man, let's go, we're gonna win this race, you know, or come on, let's go, we're gonna do this. It was a motivation for us because I still have that memory of you. And that goes a long way, you know. So for me, when I think about you and I put all the pieces in my thoughts together, it's about you always was a driving force. You always was that person that pushed people and tell people you can do it. So for me, when I saw you and you posted that on Facebook, I said, oh my God, look at it. Look at her still having that driving force and waking up, you know, what we said we had, or we still have it, but we're now putting other priorities ahead. And
that's true.
And not making this an everyday part of our life to, you know, do a little extra curriculum and put that going forward. But I love it. I enjoyed the clip that you shared, and it was just good to see you back in a little bit of your element.
A little bit.
That you enjoyed.
Yes.
So that was really good.
Thanks.
I want to on now. The birth of, I love this, the birth of the podcast.
Oh boy, the podcast.
The birth of
the podcast.
Your new baby.
My
I know
new baby.
You're a little baby, but this is your new baby.
You know how babies go.
What's your inspiration behind your podcast?
People and COVID. People and COVID. So, you know, part of this thing called service is really embedded in the whole concept of service to who? Service to people, right? So, COVID had everybody on lockdown, but it was still a chance to engage in outreach. We had a lot of students, we had organizations trying to really have the conversation about how to help a lot of our students out here. Great time to salute all of our organizations in the diaspora. But I also have to really shout out Ruth Liebert Foundation and Jean Herbert and her team. So you saw a lot of people in need during COVID, the one thing. But you also saw a lot of people showing up, like literally saying, I can exist within the COVID issue, the doldrums of COVID, I call it.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And post COVID, I could aspire to more than where I was pre-COVID. And so this is like March, not even March, maybe April, May. Like you find yourself sharing people's stories, sharing people's innovation and the initiatives. But I think even before COVID, I probably should go back a little further. Having the opportunity to work with nationals, you work at the UN where you encounter people who are not necessarily from St. Kitts and Nevis, but they're people who are involved in initiatives that impact the lives of others. And it kind of motivates you to recognize work in service is constant. Mm-hmm. It doesn't have an end. There's always an opportunity to help. And so sometimes if you could, the concept was really about how do I help people or help share people's information outside of what you share on Facebook? Because, credit to you, for example, the wealth of information you shared in March and February, it may seem like a chore, but when you don't know how much people really appreciate the information that you shared, and then people take time to, and again, sometimes people look for numbers, show me the data where 1,000 people click your page and 1,000 people acted, right? You might not get that, but of that one person who decides this really is of value to me, I really want to capitalize on this particular service that you're offering. Can I call? Can I have a word on your program? I really want to share my business, which I just started several months ago. I've been around for a while and I've been using several different handles or different platforms, but I'm not getting the traction that I would like. So there are many reasons a podcast of this scope can serve. But I choose to information share. So I choose to yield on the positive side. I'm going to tell you a quick story about a young guy who, he's a young barber of mine. He says to me, in conversation, we are talking about what he does, and he's really an ambitious young guy trying to make waves, etc., etc. He says, "Wow, that's awesome! I would really like to get my voice on your podcast, because that's a different audience I could tap." And he asked for the type of information, and I said it's mostly business related and service oriented. There aren't restrictions per se. Down the road, there is opportunity for shifting the needle some and considering a different avenue. But for now, it's really about people who are pursuing their particular ventures or dreams, whatever, and using the platform if they so choose, because you have multiple ways to promote. Yeah. He said, so what about some controversy? We like drama. He says, people like drama, people like controversy. And yeah, that safe space of just promoting people's businesses and people talking about the services they offer. That's so safe. But I said to him, you cannot please everybody, but you could impact the lives of many. Yeah. And so however that works, that's basically what the baby is. Baby will hopefully go through the stages, toddler, and then eventually, young adult and adulthood. I would like to see through to that stage. But in the meanwhile, because it's not a daily show, the idea is to really capitalize on as many individuals, whether in my community and extension of my community, and information share. And hopefully,
you have it. Is it weekly or bi-weekly?
The intention is bi-weekly.
Okay.
Initially, the ambitious Coreentje was weekly. What is a reality out against ambition? So the ambition was every week, or is every week. I'll pace myself and see where the information takes me. Again, the interest is in the receiver, the public, and hopefully they too can offer their feedback as to the benefit of. And I've already gotten feedback in the sense that people have said, Coreentje, you must touch base with Wendy, you must touch base with, Irina. So that's the hope.
Very good. The name, Platform and Possibilities. That is a powerful name, Coreentje. What made you name your podcast Platform and Possibilities? Because that's huge. You could interpret that in so many different ways. But when I heard that name, I said, wow, that's a good because it's telling you it's not leaving anyone out. You're creating a platform. This is how I interpret it. You're creating a platform, and it could be anybody, anywhere.
Did I just tell you that I kind of have a passion for people?
You did. So when I heard the name, I'm like, okay. It's not just one avenue. It's everything, every avenue. And what was your thought behind it when you got that name, Platform and Possibilities?
You know what? You really peel back the layers nicely on what the whole concept really is. It's really about a stage, right? So there are multiple stages. This particular stage doesn't do the video like to do this and look cute every day. Coreentje really can. Time-wise, I just don't have the time. So I did know that I needed something that didn't lock me in to the visual.
Yeah.
And so in a sense, I started looking for a platform then. And in scoping out or searching for platforms, the concept was like the possibilities that could come out of whichever platform I'm on really speaks to what this whole initiative is about. Platform and Possibilities is taking that stage and creating waves with that stage. And and essentially it is Platform and Possibilities. So every time I say possibilities, I have that ring in my voice, Platform and Possibilities. Yeah.
No, it is a good one because, it tells you what you're offering right away, right there.
Yeah.
And I won't say that you're not nitpicking. It's for everyone.
Very much.
I love about when I heard that name, because you're creating that success story for someone.
That's exactly what the concept is. You interpreted very well, and I appreciate that. Thanks for that, Wendy. It's about touching many lives on this platform and creating the possibilities from whatever outcomes could really be derived from just having a conversation with me. Talking to Adriel, for example, I'm hopeful that you may have listened at least that particular interview. Adriel was a former brownie of mine. And that's another part of the childhood that speaks to how you end up, these multifaceted areas or avenues we had to be involved in. We didn't even know that they would help us later on, right? Yeah. So she was a brownie of mine, and she left St. Kitts, migrated and went into culinary arts. This girl is a powerhouse cake baker, dope baker chick. One tagline she uses, sugar and cream cake studio. But it didn't just happen. No, she's been making a name for herself, but really just savvy, young, and far-reaching in terms of the service that she offers and the level of her confidence level and her humbleness at the same time kind of makes her stand out. She's unique in terms of her personality. And she's just one example. And a lot of the examples of young people moving and shaking, holding their own in so many areas. You can't talk to everybody. You can't write everybody's stories or everybody's story. But when we have these exchanges and when we promote these use these platforms to promote people, you don't know who you're impacting. Somebody sitting there on a dream 2 years, 3 years, 2 months, 1 week. You just never know who you help to push the envelope even, further.
And I think that's good because it's not everybody's going to get that stage and that platform to hear their story. So this is why I love what you're doing. And I love that you created platform and possibilities because many, many individuals need that. And you said this was thought of during COVID. So let's go back to COVID. Let's go back to when we were locked down and we thought that there was no hope.
Oh boy.
So why? What was in your thoughts during this time with COVID? We still in a lockdown more so.
Well, the first month, I swear I did. First month of COVID, and I'm sure many of us, many others can relate to being nervous about whatever this thing was. I think, there's so many people who we lost near and dear.
Yeah.
And every time I think about how some people passed, it's like you ask yourself, who are you to deserve being here still? You know what I'm saying?
Of course.
But after the fear, you realize people were really trying to, after the fear and all the TikTok videos, and you realize there was opportunity to help showcase people who are creating opportunity. And that's really where this thing happened in COVID. Again, I recall, that experience at the United Nations and working for the permanent mission of St. Kitts and Nevis, that you recognize there are opportunities for us to really drive some effective initiatives in the tri-state area, in the US. And again, let me tell you that there's so many organizations moving and shaking. I could call names. I don't want to leave any names out, but you have organizations like Standing Point Benevolent Society,
yes.
CANA in New York. Did I say I didn't want to call the names? But let me don't miss out names like St. Peter's alumni, a group of people from from St. Peter's, Green Valley Global, an organization I pride myself in terms of our community work. And there are so many others. CABA has been around forever. And again, like I said, there's some others which I feel they don't fly off my tongue. But the point is, many organizations throughout the US have done their work in terms of community outreach. And so during a time like COVID, people recognized, here we're still here. How can we reach out and help? And that's why I talked earlier about the Livelihood Foundation. They connected with those students and literally became like a cushion, a buffer for these kids. You build lifelong relationships, one, and you pretty much help children problem solve. No, I said children because they're young adults mostly, but you help them problem solve, and you help them recognize the value of relationships, because now they have a duty to pay it forward. We don't know what other world crisis is out there, but they now have an opportunity to pay it forward because of the work that people did to assist them during COVID.
And when you sat down and you started saying this podcast and getting your podcast ready, and you thought that we all gonna die because we had no hope that this is gonna come out. Listen.
Oh my God.
We sit back now and we smile and we laugh, and there's a vaccine and there's this and there's so many other things that's going on, and here you bring another platform to help people. and that truly shows who you are and what you're doing. And I know your daughter had a major part in this, so let's
Totally.
use her in this.
But even in COVID, you know, listen, I know there's so many brilliant kids out there. And one of the things you really don't like to do is necessarily tout your child or your children. Um, but because kids do say the darndest things, that's really a true story. They just do something. She did this thing, and I call it ad lib off the cuff, off the fly. Last March, I think it was, talking about COVID. And I was like, okay. And she pretty much was talking about the virus and giving hit tips about how not to get sick and how to practice good COVID protocols. And I'm like, right, right. So even with this podcast, fast forward now to the podcast, I did a temperature check one day. Well, not a temperature check, but just did a random, you in one room, let me test, because that's all part of the challenge of these podcasts, the quality, the type of equipment, etc., etc. So she's on one side of our space and I'm on the other side. And by the time the girl finished, I'm like, this is an episode to save, because she basically telling me she wants to inspire people. I'm like, okay, yeah, you kind of want to share information like that, I am humbled. I feel like in many ways it's a gift to have any child who just looks up to you and who you tell time and again, you don't want to be like me. You want to be better than me. You're gonna be a better version than me. Aspire to beyond me, So, and I raise a son who I tell all the time, focus on, and he's a teenager, he's 17 years old. So I said to him, pay attention to who you are when nobody's looking. I say to both of them actually, but who are you when nobody's looking? Which translates to give up your best all the time. Mm-hmm. Don't half step.
Exactly.
Especially when people are not looking. So, you use the power of the people around you, to infuse your thinking and your ideas, and that's what happened in COVID.
Well, I read she sent your mother's the letter. And I was like, how old is she?
Yeah.
I was like blown away just by her thoughts and how deep she went in that letter. And that was such an amazing thing, because I'm like, okay, well, this is Coreentje, this is her daughter. Of course she's going to, be as deep and inspired, because when I read it and I was like, oh, wow, this is really showing how affection and how you have influenced her at such a young age already.
Yeah, let me tell you, you appreciate these things, but let me tell you, there's something, don't ever doubt it. It's not cliche. Your village counts. Even if, I lately I call my tribe a vibe tribe, and that's family, really close friends. And even sometimes, in my experience, there's I have many respectable acquaintances, people who aren't necessarily friends, but I pride myself in our exchanges.
Yes. But
I go back to the village. And it is true that at various points in your life, people come into your life. Some stay, I think, for example, of people like Heather Archibald, Dolores Wilkes. I talk about them a lot because, and when I talk about them, I end up talking about the team of people who come behind them, because they come from big families. So I get a chance to tap all of them in different ways.
Yeah.
Truly a village. You think you have all these ideas, and essentially they came, for example, to Green Valley Global as treasurer and secretary, offering so much more. And you just don't minimize people's value, and you realize, you get to be appreciative of everything that you have personally and professionally, but you're nothing without really good people who value you and who really drive a lot of what you see today, all this hard work and so forth. From way back, my godmother was a staunch, stern individual, for example. I would never forget when she You know, I used to attend Pastor Brown Sunday School. Love Pastor Brown. I used to go with one of the Tysons. Eunice Tyson was one of my little mentors, Gotti, auntie, big sister, like. And I show up one Sunday for Sunday school, and the godmother, of course, because of my parents' intention to have me in Anglican church, you know, walking for confirmation. And she was like, you're going to, after Sunday school, you're going to find yourself up at Anglican. You're going to have to walk for confirmation. So eventually I had to leave Pastor Brown and walk for confirmation because I was baptized in Anglican church, and that's a whole other subject, right? But strong people in your life, you got your parents, yes, you got your brothers, your sister, you know, your sisters really, and they have an influential role to play in your life. So much so that sometimes as I got older, I think I'm kind of break the chain now, but at some point, because you so value your older siblings and what their perception of you or perceptions of you are, you kind of you have this relationship where you value what their opinions are, you know, and so you sometimes have to have that shift in a way that you say, listen, big sister, big brother, thank you, but you know, I got this, right? But it all comes full circle. People and relationships, you know, there's no Coreentje without good people to tell me the truth and to help guide me into even this space. And you're never too old to learn, eh? You're never too old to get good people to steer you in the right direction.
But you know, I even think like how she put her thoughts together and was able to conceptualize
Yeah.
platform and possibilities, and plus
Yes.
that Mother's Day, you know, letter that she wrote to you, appreciate you
Yeah.
everything that you have done. I think that's amazing, and I must commend you because at that age, you know, you don't find too much at that age wanting to be a part of such in-depth conversation.
Right. Right.
So it's more of, okay, where is she going to be in the next couple years?
You know,
Yeah.
it's the last day of fifth grade. And that's the scary part, you know, to hear her say, Mommy, I'm going to middle school, I'm going to junior high. My God, that's the scary part. It's scary.
Yeah.
It's scary. But you cannot, I don't see us, you know, the hope is that we take those foundation, we call it foundation, that foundation that really propel us to now. This ain't the time to abandon it, Wendy. This is the time to embrace it. So I trust that this young lady and my son will, you know, shoot for the stars, as much as I tell all my nieces and my nephews the same thing. You know, go hard because they're not going home. Go hard. Be bold. Trust in the higher power to guide you, and you know, put the best foot forward. Some of us are introverts, some of us are open, we like people, you know, some rather being in a shell, but be positive thinking in everything you pursue, and always value people. Can't survive without people.
And if somebody wants to be on your podcast, Platform and Possibilities, where can they find you? Or what do
I'm on Facebook, right? So I'm on Facebook, but I give people the option to catch me on Facebook, Platform and Possibilities. There's an email address, platandposs@gmail. That's PLATANDPOSS@gmail. I do have a contact number as well at 516-584-3884. I am building that IG presence as well,
Okay.
at Plat and Poss.
Okay. That sounds great. Coreentje, tell us, if anybody looking to be in your world of communications, what is some of the advice that you can give to them out there today?
Oh boy. Well, listen, the world of communications, there's so many different aspects to it, you know, especially now with this digital marketing and, you know, using various internet platforms to reach people. I think people follow information. And I think, especially for young people, you know, I shared with a young lady recently to connect with other people who she or he sees out there, that really is trying to build, whether it's a business or else, not internet presence, but social media presence. You first of all can't be shy. You have to reach out to connections that interest you. You got to be bold. It's always a good thing to be able to write, but these are skills that you could also acquire. By just writing, you have to write. Just as communicating, you have to talk to people. So my advice is to follow the whatever drive there is to be involved in the world of communications. There various aspects. People want to be wholly and solely in media, voice, or broadcast, journalism. I'm not sure where people's interests lie. Is really where you make your stab at where you want to go. But I don't know that I necessarily studied, to be in this particular field. I don't think that I necessarily did. I mean, information systems and international relations. I guess there were elements of communications there. And so after you pull out all the pieces, I guess, of the entire puzzle, you find the things that you like. At least that was my experience. And working with people and in that particular space is something I think I've loved for a while.
Amazing. It was a pleasure to have you on Style Talk on another Style Wednesday. And ladies and gentlemen, go out and listen to her podcast, Platform and Possibilities. There's some great information out there. There's some great platforms. And if you're looking to hear your voice or let your voice be heard, reach out to Coreentje on Platform and Possibilities. She gave you all the information. She's on social media and you could connect with her. But definitely, this is where you want to let your voice be heard in what you do and how you do it well and how you do it great, because this is a platform she's creating for anybody out there. And I want to thank her personally for doing that, because we love people, we love pushing people, we love engaging people. And I think that there's not enough of us that can do so much more. And now you created this. I'm so excited. I am happy to see the birth of it, and I'm happy to see where it's going. So thank you, Coreentje, for joining us tonight.
Thanks, Wendy. And can I just say, Wendy, how honored I am that you even thought about this engagement tonight. I really do appreciate you reaching out for the opportunity to speak of this platform. And I'm glad that I'm on, if there's a part of me that said, you know what, when I talk to Wendy tonight, I should put on the spot and ask her a couple of questions. But then, I know you were going to ask me a couple other questions that, you pitched at me. So I said that tonight is the night for me to just stay back, and I'm at your mercy. But I also have to add that you two have been moving and shaking in style and fashion and in the world of people. And I trust that you understand. I know that you do understand the value of connecting with people and how you help to uplift others. And it does has its value. People call it priceless, right? So just know that you are appreciated, Wendy. And I am so happy that I had this opportunity to use this stage to tell you that you are phenomenal.
Thank you.
Truly phenomenal.
So much. Thank you. And until next week, thank you, Coreentje, for joining us. And we look forward to hear more about Platform and Possibilities. Guys, check out the podcast. Don't miss it. Thank you so much, and have a fashionable week.
Thank you, Wendy.
You're welcome.
Bye.
Bye. Guys, there you have it. Coreentje Phipps Benjamin telling us about her new platform in terms of Platform and Possibilities, her podcast that created an avenue for anyone in this world that wants to hear their voice on what they're doing, how they do it, and what they want to do. So reach out to her and Coreentje Platform of Possibilities and get on that next stage. Guys, it's the Queen of Style telling you to have a fashionable week. And before I leave, I want to thank my sponsors and everybody for tuning in this evening and having a great week. Until next week, Wednesday, have a fashionable week.